Imagine a moment where decades of hardened resolve are suddenly challenged by the raw pulse of humanity, where a living legend defies every expectation and turns hate on its head. What if, in a single transformative act, the stoic force of Clint Eastwood confronts the ugliness of racial injustice, sparking a ripple of hope that cuts through centuries of prejudice? This isn't a scene from a script. It's a heart-pounding, unscripted stand against injustice that will make you question everything you thought you knew about courage. In a sprawling American city where glittering skyscrapers and bustling streets form the backdrop of everyday hustle, there exists a stark divide between opulence and struggle. Amid the urban chaos, life unfolds in the most unassuming places. Imagine a modest community center near a homeless shelter, a place where hope often battles despair. This is not a world of boardrooms and billion-dollar legacies, but one where the quiet strength of everyday people shines through the darkness of injustice. On a cool autumn afternoon, Clint Eastwood, known to the world as an icon of rugged determination and stoic resilience, finds himself in a place he never expected. Though his legendary status is built on silver screen triumphs, today he appears not in a tailored suit for the cameras, but in simple attire, a worn jacket and jeans that speak of authenticity over glamour. Eastwood has come to this community center for reasons that remain his own, but fate has a way of intertwining lives in the most unexpected of moments. Across from him sits Malik, a homeless man whose face tells a story of years marked by racial harassment and relentless hardship. Malik's eyes, though tired and sorrowful, shimmer with a spark of defiant hope, a silent reminder that dignity can survive even the harshest indignities. For Malik, every day is a battle against a society that too often ignores him, treating him as nothing more than a statistic rather than a human being. Yet, despite the weight of discrimination, his spirit endures, fueled by the belief that every person deserves respect. At that moment, the community center buzzes quietly with the murmur of everyday activity. People move about with purpose, unaware that something monumental is about to occur, a collision of worlds that challenges the very fabric of prejudice and legacy. Clint Eastwood, a man who has faced countless adversities both on and off the screen, sits quietly, lost in thought as he watches the world go by. In that reflective silence, the stage is set for an act of compassion that will reverberate far beyond this modest setting. Have you ever wondered if one act of kindness can change the course of history? What if the courage to stand up for someone could break down the walls of hate? Are you ready to see how one brave moment can transform a legacy of injustice? As the afternoon unfolds, a sudden commotion disrupts the quiet rhythm of the community center. A group of individuals, fueled by ignorance and hate, storms into the center near the homeless shelter. Their voices, laden with racial slurs and venomous insults, cut through the air like a knife. They target Malik, calling him names, hurling crude remarks, and even physically shoving him. The painful reality of prejudice, long hidden beneath polite society's veneer, is now glaringly apparent. Malik, who has endured this treatment time and again, shrinks in his seat. His eyes, wide with shock and resignation, reflect the depth of a pain that has been festering for years. In this moment, every slight he has suffered, the whispered comments, the sideways glances, the overt acts of discrimination, converge into a single searing wound. The air grows heavy, and the murmurs of other patrons turn to uneasy silence as they watch a man, so often ignored, bear the brunt of hate. Clint Eastwood, witnessing this blatant injustice, feels a stirring deep within. Although known for his unflinching demeanor and legendary toughness, there is a vulnerability in his eyes today, a spark that ignites when he sees the oppressed suffer. The injustice before him is not new, but it is a call to action that he can no longer ignore. For years, Eastwood has carried his legacy as a shield, a symbol of resilience that inspired countless fans. Yet now, confronted with the raw, unvarnished cruelty inflicted upon Malik, his heart tightens with indignation and sorrow. The stark contrast between the opulent world of those in power and the bleak, painful reality of racial harassment becomes undeniable. The aggressors, emboldened by anonymity and societal apathy, revel in their cruelty, as if their actions are both acceptable and inevitable. Meanwhile, the community center, once a place of quiet routine, transforms into a battlefield where the forces of hate clash with the unyielding spirit of justice. Have you ever felt that searing pain of witnessing injustice so personal it shakes you to your core? What if one moment could force you to confront the ugly truths of society? Can you feel the rising tension as prejudice and hope prepare to collide? In the midst of this chaos, Clint Eastwood stands up. His eyes, reflecting decades of cinematic triumphs and personal battles, scan the room. Memories of past struggles, moments when he too had to stand against adversity, flood his mind. He remembers the countless times he fought for justice on screen, the roles where he championed the underdog, and the personal sacrifices that defined his career. But today, his actions are not for a movie or an audience. They are for the sake of truth, dignity, and humanity. As Eastwood moves forward with measured steps, the energy in the room begins to shift. His voice, deep and resolute, cuts through the hostile din as he addresses the aggressors with a single word: enough. That word, simple yet powerful, echoes through the room and stuns everyone into silence. The hateful voices falter, and for a moment, time seems to slow as the full weight of his command sinks in. At the same time, Malik's eyes meet Eastwood's, a silent, desperate plea for help and understanding. The raw intensity of that connection sends a ripple through the room, stirring something deep within those who have long been passive bystanders. Among them is Emily, a dedicated staff member at the shelter who has witnessed countless injustices. Tears well in her eyes as she sees the moment of change unfolding before her, a moment that promises to redefine what is right. Emily, who has long battled the stigma and hardship of her environment, feels a surge of determination. The injustice that Malik has endured becomes not just his burden, but her call to action. Her heart races as she contemplates the courage it takes to stand up against overwhelming hate. In that charged moment, every detail, the muted clamor of the community center, the palpable tension in the air, and the collective gasp of those present, cements the fact that this is no ordinary day. Eastwood's voice, steady and unwavering, continues, "We cannot let hate define who we are." His words are a rallying cry, a challenge to every person in the room to stand up, to question the status quo, and to demand a world where dignity triumphs over discrimination. As the room absorbs his declaration, the atmosphere shifts from one of hostility to one of introspection and burgeoning hope. Have you ever been moved by the power of a single word? What if the courage to speak out could inspire others to rise above hate? Can you feel the collective heartbeat of change, pulsing through a room full of silent witnesses? In that defining moment, Eastwood's actions spark a chain reaction. The aggressors, now exposed and vulnerable under the weight of his challenge, begin to retreat, their confidence crumbling like fragile glass. Meanwhile, Emily gathers herself, her resolve hardening into a fierce determination to ensure that the truth will not be silenced. Every whispered word, every tear shed, becomes part of a larger narrative, a narrative that promises to transform lives and reshape a legacy marred by prejudice. As the tension reaches its zenith, the confrontation takes on an almost timeless quality. With the room now silent in the wake of Eastwood's command, every eye is fixed on the unfolding drama. The aggressors, now visibly shaken, shrink back into the corners of the community center. Clint Eastwood stands as a solitary beacon of resolve, his steely gaze fixed not on the retreating figures but on Malik, whose eyes, a blend of fear and gratitude, reflect the possibility of redemption. In that critical moment, Eastwood steps forward, his expression softening with empathy as he addresses Malik directly. "Your worth is not defined by their hatred," he says, his voice low and full of quiet power. The words, simple and unadorned, carry a weight that transcends the immediate chaos. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, the air is filled with a sense of unity, a realization that every act of cruelty can be met with compassion, and every injustice can be challenged by the courage of one person. Emily, watching from behind the counter, feels a surge of relief and empowerment. Her eyes glisten with unshed tears as she witnesses the transformation of the scene, a moment when the harsh realities of racism and prejudice are confronted head-on. The entire community center seems to pulse with the energy of that singular act, where hate is momentarily silenced by a display of human decency and resolve. Have you ever seen a moment so powerful that it makes you believe in change? What if the strength to stand up against injustice comes from the most unexpected places? Can you imagine the impact of a single act of kindness in a world filled with hate? In this electrifying climax, Clint Eastwood's intervention is more than just a reaction. It is a declaration that the fight for justice is not over, that every voice, no matter how small, has the power to defy the darkness of prejudice. His stand against hate resonates throughout the room, igniting hope in hearts that had long been paralyzed by fear. As the echoes of the confrontation begin to fade, a sense of tentative calm settles over the community center. The aggressors have dispersed, and the hostile energy that once filled the room gives way to a quiet, reflective atmosphere. Clint Eastwood, though still carrying the weight of his own legacy, now sits with a new light in his eyes, a glimmer of hope born from the act of confronting injustice. Malik, whose suffering was laid bare for all to see, now wears a fragile yet genuine smile, a sign that his dignity has been restored, if only for a moment. Emily, too, feels the profound impact of what has transpired. Her tears, which once flowed with pain, now dry into a determined resolve. She understands that her courage to speak out is not just a personal triumph but a beacon for others who have long been silenced by fear and prejudice. The community center, with its unassuming walls and the gentle hum of returning routine, now carries an undercurrent of change, a promise that even in the darkest moments the light of truth and compassion can prevail. In the days that follow, the story of that fateful afternoon spreads beyond the walls of the community center. Social media buzzes with accounts of the brave intervention. Local news outlets pick up the story, and conversations ignite about the need for accountability and the power of standing up for what is right. Clint Eastwood's quiet act of defiance becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that true strength lies in the willingness to confront injustice head-on. Malik, emboldened by the support and the recognition of his humanity, begins to share his story, transforming his experience of marginalization into a narrative of resilience and empowerment. As the community slowly heals, the legacy of that day takes on a new meaning. It is a legacy not defined by the scars of prejudice but by the courage to challenge it. Every whispered conversation, every tear and every word of support builds a foundation for a future where injustice is met with solidarity, where hate is challenged by love, and where every individual is seen for the person they truly are. Have you ever believed that one moment of defiance could spark a revolution in your heart? What if the courage to stand up for someone else becomes the spark that lights a path to a better future? Can you feel the promise of transformation when every act of kindness builds a bridge to redemption? This powerful story reminds us that our legacy is not predetermined by our past or by the hate we endure. It is forged in the crucible of our choices, our acts of bravery, and our willingness to embrace truth even when it is painful. The scars we bear are not symbols of our weakness, but are marks of our strength, each one a testament to our capacity to rise above adversity. When we dare to confront our darkest moments, we unlock the potential for a future defined not by the shadows of discrimination, but by the light of compassion and unity. At its core, this story is a meditation on the transformative power of one courageous act. It challenges us to break free from the chains of prejudice, to confront the hidden truths that bind us, and to embrace the possibility of change. Clint Eastwood's intervention and Malik's resilient spirit remind us that every act of kindness can ignite a movement, that every voice raised in defiance of hate can pave the way for a more just and compassionate world. Do you believe that one moment of courage can redefine your destiny? Can you imagine the power of standing up against injustice and inspiring others to do the same? Are you ready to let your actions speak louder than hate? As the community center returns to its quiet routine, the impact of that unforgettable afternoon lingers in the hearts of all who witnessed it, a reminder that even the smallest act of compassion can transform a legacy and light the way for a new beginning. If you're ready to embrace your truth and stand up for justice, subscribe now.